children. These are things that I'm incredibly excited about because I know that if we can realise our diversity, we will be a much stronger people. I also know that it's just a fundamental moral imperative to recognise that in our country, every person should have every opportunity to feel that they belong in every space and to realise their potential. That is my vision of our multicultural communities, and I know we can take great heart and inspiration from the great people in this room. And of course, we can't really talk about multiculturalism without talking about immigration. And Julian said some kind words about my background. But what's really important is not what has gone before, it's what's before us. I say that recognising that we do confront a pretty awful state of the books when it comes to immigration in the federal government. 9 long years of cruelty on the one hand and neglect on the other. 9 long years. And frankly, friends, it's going to take some time to heal all of those wounds and to repair all of the damage. But these are absolute priorities for me, and they are priorities for the Albanese government as a whole. Now, I won't go through the length and breadth of what we found when we opened the books, because that's, I think there are some young people present and they don't deserve to see that, but it would also take too long. But I want to make a couple of reflections about what we need to be doing. Firstly, we've got to restore our humanity and decency when it comes to immigration. We've got to heal. That starts, of course, with recognising that there are 31,000 people here who are either on or eligible on TPVs and chefs. Is the feedback bad in the room or just bad where I am, by the way?
Probably just maybe a tiny bit away.
Yeah, a bit further back. Is that okay? Yeah, okay. People who are on TPVs and chefs need to be removed from the limbo that is temporary protection. That is something that I know is of great concern to people in this room. And it's a great concern to me. We are working on this and we will get the answer right, and we'll get the answer right as soon as possible. Nothing is more important to me in my portfolio than doing justice to these people. These people have been found to be owed Australia's protection, who are contributing so much to our economy and society, but deserve the opportunity to plan for their lives, to connect with family and do all the things that they are entitled to take for granted as they go about their lives. Now, fixing this is fundamentally important, but it isn't the end. It's actually the beginning of a more decent approach of a national government that recognises our obligations. That's why we're committing to, over time, almost double our intake of humanitarian refugee resettlement. That's why we're committing to make sure that our settlement services are fit for purpose. So when people arrive here, often traumatised, they get every opportunity to build the skills, the confidence, and have the supports to make extraordinary contributions that we know refugees with their resilience bring to our society. I'm also really excited about the possibilities of community sponsorship of refugees, something that's done so well in other countries, most notably Canada, something which allows us to harness the great generosity that's found in the Australian community, including in communities like this. And I think it's also interesting, coming from a government perspective, to see what can happen when these community groups get together, and the thoughts that these local groups, faith groups often, have about how people can be effectively relevant. In working with the people involved in the pilot that's currently underway, I've picked up on so many great ideas of how to build a more welcoming country, which is fantastic for those communities, fantastic for the refugees who have been welcomed. But I think it also realises something a bit stronger about the promise of our country. I see the extraordinary transformation such a program has had on Canada, and I know that Australians are just as generous as Canadians. So this is something that I'm really excited about. I also want to reflect on the world in which we live when it comes to the humanitarian challenge that we face. And I want to make a couple of broad points. Firstly, I think we have to recognise that we live in a world where there are more people displaced than at any time in human history. More people displaced than at any time in human history.
At the moment, UNHCR tells us that there are just over 2 million people, 2 million refugees in need of resettlement. Last year, the world resettled 50,000. That's the scale of the challenge that we're engaged in. And the point that I think we need to take from this is that, firstly, we need to do better as a country. We need to be an exemplar to the rest of the world. But we've got to recognise that we need to lead a cooperative global effort in this space. This isn't an Australian issue, it's a global issue requiring Australian engagement, Australian leadership that's both moral and practical. These are things that we need to be working on. It's something that I am passionate about. And the last point I wanted to make about humanitarian issues is one that I know is very important here, the heart of Australia's Afghan community. The challenge of doing justice to the people of Afghanistan frankly seems overwhelming at times, and I want to acknowledge the pain that's felt by so many people in this room here. I want to also acknowledge the leadership of so many people in this room, community leaders, local members, including of course Julian, and we try and do everything we can to recognise that the debt we owe to Afghanistan is different. It's way here because of our involvement, particularly that involvement that goes to people who are in particular danger because of their connection to Australia and their help for Australians. So I want to recognise that in this space, that this is a great challenge. I'm not blind to the difficulties of engaging with what's happening in Afghanistan now, nor indeed in Pakistan and Iran as the most adjacent transit countries, but I want to acknowledge this as a huge issue and a priority, not just for me, but for the government, in ensuring that we meet the obligations that we have met. There's of course another side to the immigration portfolio, and that's the issue of our skilled and our family intake, the majority of our migration program. I just want to touch on this briefly because I think we're at an important inflection time as a country, and I hope that people in this room saw something of that in the Jobs and Skills Summit that took place in Parliament only a couple of weeks ago, when we saw something very important, I think, in that there was a real consensus across almost the entire community, except for that Peter Dutton guy who didn't turn up, that restarting our immigration program is fundamentally in our national interest. Getting it working properly is fundamentally in our national interest. Recognising the issues that we are facing, a skills crisis and a labour crisis, are closely connected to immigration. Recognising too, and I don't want anyone to believe that we are neglecting this for a second, the last couple of years have fractured the human connections that make up so much of the lives of so many Australians. So the family program also has never been more important. But I'm thrilled that we are expanding our permanent intake to 195,000 next year. It's a great decision, and the foundation for us to consider immigration as we need to, as a nation-building piece of infrastructure. It's not a lazy response to issues from time to time, it's about nation-building at a human level and an economic level. And I'm really excited about this and the possibilities of doing so much more, given the community interest and support. What underpins this is making sure that we've got systems that work. And I know because I'm probably the one person in the room who missed out on all the cultural entertainment, which was excellent, I'm sure, because I was talking to people, or more accurately, listening to people about their frustrations. These are conversations I have all the time. Businesses that are dealing with a system that doesn't work for them. Individuals who are frustrated at the process of their applications, or the progress of their applications. The biggest priority I've had as Minister is to get the visa system moving. There were more than 1 million visas on hand when I became the Minister 108 days ago, I think. Now the number's down in the 800,000s. We need to get it much lower. We're getting it lower because we're hiring more people. More dedicated public servants are doing this important work so the community can have confidence. Because our policies can be great, but they will only be meaningful if people can access a visa system that works efficiently. I know in this community, probably more than any other in Australia, that matters, and driving that system to work effectively is my #1 priority and that of the government. We are seeing the fruits of that. The last 2 months have seen the highest number of offshore student visa applications in our history, and those people are starting to arrive. We know the system is starting to work. We also know it's got to keep working better. I know that the people in this room will keep on my back to ensure it works even better and to ensure that we don't stop there. We have committed to a review of the migration system to make sure that our visa offers are fit for purpose, to recognise that we can't just work on the lazy assumption that people are going to come to Australia. We've got to look at what other countries are doing, Canada, the UK, Singapore, and to think about how attractive our offer is compared to them. We've also got to recognise that we've got some brand damage, and the former government telling people on visas to go home and then leaving them without any income support was immoral and barbaric. It won't be forgotten overseas, so we've got to assure the world that that will not happen under our watch, that that's not how we treat people who we invite into this country. We treat everyone with respect, and of course, fundamental to that is a vision for immigration that's about pathways to permanency. A vision for immigration that rejects this notion of sliding into a guest worker society, which is a rejection of the country that we have built over the last several decades. So that's the approach that we will be taking to the immigration portfolio, and I look forward to carrying on the conversation with the people in this room about it. But we're here to support the re-election on the 26th of November of an Andrews Labor government. I'm so thrilled to be in the presence of so many senior members of that government and so many candidates who will become members in the next Andrews Labor government. I think anyone who is here and listened to the Premier would be in no doubt about not only his record, but his determination not to rest on his laurels, not to waste a single day, which has been a hallmark of that government. Now, if you think about Victoria in 2014, and if you think about Victoria in 2022, you see a state transformed. You see our suburbs in particular transformed by record investment. Investment in physical infrastructure that is reshaping our city, enabling us to get around. But also incredible investment in the social infrastructure that recognises our greatest asset, the Victorian people. And I see in my electorate every day the fruits of these investments. And I think about what has been achieved in those 8 years. But I also think about what's at stake. Because this election really is fundamentally a contest between hope and fear. In the Andrews government, we have a hopeful, confident, positive vision for our future, built on a record of delivery. A record that recognises that we've done so much, but we have so much more to do to realise the potential of our great state and its even greater people. On the other hand, we have carping negativity and division from a Liberal Party. A Liberal Party which built nothing and plans for nothing. That is really what's at stake. Whether we can continue this progressive legacy which leads the nation and inspires so many beyond our nation's shores, or go back to the torpor that the Liberals promise. That's what's at stake. I know everyone knows this, but what I'd like to leave you with tonight is to reflect on how we make change. We make change by people coming together in a shared vision. This room is full of such people with connections into all the communities across the vibrant, diverse regions and suburbs that make up the southeastern Melbourne. Now, I know you've done so much for our party, our movement and your communities, and I thank you for that. But the message I want to leave you all with is that thanks isn't enough. There's so much more to do. We know, as in every election, there will be forces weighed against us, weighed against a progressive agenda, weighed against an agenda that's built on equity, fairness and good life outcomes for every citizen. We can only answer that by coming together, working harder, telling our story, bidding excessively on the auction items in particular, buying raffle tickets, handing out how-to-vote cards, going to train stations, having conversations in your WhatsApp groups, at the temple, at the train station. That's our shared challenge. I'm so proud as a Victorian of the achievements of the Andrews government. I'm even prouder at the possibility of that government being re-elected and working with an Albanese Labor government to reshape our nation. We can make that happen, the people in this room. We must make that happen. My challenge to you is to do everything possible to ensure that on the 27th of November, we wake up tired, happy and excited about the possibilities of a third term. Thank you very much, everyone.